Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Never Fail Ale. Here we are again. I certainly hope you're enjoying the content as much as I am enjoying making the content. So, hard to believe we're at another episode. So, today the plan will be to try a 8.4 Dipa. So yes, it will be very, very interesting to see what that is like. Very strong ale, has to be said. So we will get on to that very, very shortly. But what I did want to start off with is if you've seen the previous episode, and hopefully you've been enjoying the journey with me as much as I have so far. But yes, if you've looked at the previous episode, you'll see that, or you would have seen and heard that I mentioned as regards to the UNESCO cask ale heritage application that's soon to go in. And interestingly, it didn't actually know a huge amount about the UNESCO like the way they work in essence. So, and it would seem there's a reason for that. So I made sure that I had some notes with me on this particular subject because there's that many different dates that have been mentioned, and there's that much information to take in. I just wanted to make sure that I had the correct information for you. But the reason why there's not that much mention as regards to UNESCO is because Britain as a whole hadn't actually ratified the UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. And that was actually back in 2003. So I wasn't aware that that was a thing. So apparently, once again, just getting back to my notes here, it actually changed last year. So when Britain officially became the 183rd state to join the convention, following a public consultation in January 2024. So yeah, that's a reason as to why there's not much talk really, or there hasn't been much talk up until this point as regards to any heritage sites for UNESCO, because it's only now that the UK government can actually put a list to UNESCO to be considered. So yes, I found that really interesting, just as regards to the fact that it's only now really that we can look at these heritage sites and intangible aspects of our heritage and actually start putting them towards UNESCO for that heritage status. And interestingly, kind of looking back really as regards to historical UNESCO heritage sites and what they've listed, predominantly would be winemaking regions. So for instance, the likes of Portugal, they're listed in the UNESCO heritage list for their port wine. The Champagne hillsides, obviously well known for their houses and cellars, producing champagne, which is very popular, especially within the United Kingdom, and the territories of Burgundy as well. That's another one that's been listed, and also some regions and hills within Italy that produce the finest prosecco. Sorry. So yes, it's interesting that there are certain areas within Europe that are already on the UNESCO list, but predominantly due to the wine regions. However, there is an exception to this. So beer does have its place on the list, and that particular area is the Czech Republic and their landscape area of Saaz hops. So I, for one, have probably only had a handful of beers that use Saaz. I personally absolutely love Prague. It's one of my favourite cities to go to, and with it being within that region, they would use SARS hops quite regularly. And the Zatek region within the Czech Republic particularly uses and grows that hop. So that's actually on the UNESCO list as well. And strangely, this UNESCO list and the application for it comprises of two parts. So it comprises of the rural element and the urban element. So ultimately, let's take the SARS hops, for instance. What would have happened there is the listing would have gone to UNESCO. They would have looked to see where the hop was being grown. So that's naturally your rural element. And then what they do then is take a look at the urban side of things. So the SARS hops grown within the rural region. Then it gets sent towards the urban region, for instance, for packing, transportation, export, and UNESCO actually look at the complexities of both sides. So as part of the application process, they will see what impact a particular intangible product has to the region, as it were, and provided that it has a positive impact, that's where it will make a huge difference to UNESCO giving that particular product its UNESCO heritage status. And strangely, like looking at the notes that have made as in regards to the potential application for cask ale within the United Kingdom, I really focused on the Belgian beer element, because a lot of people would know Belgian beer is extremely not only popular, but it's very well known. And it would seem there's a particular reason for that. So back in 2016, Belgian beer culture was not only entered into the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage sites, but it was included in there as well. And there are notes kind of circulating to say that the recognition has reinforced Belgian beer's global reputation by enhancing its visibility at local, national, and international levels. So it would seem for the Belgian beer scene, the UNESCO heritage list has helped the Belgian beer scene increase not only in popularity, but also from a visible point of view, which, once again, if we relate it back to cask ale, surely that can only be a good thing. Because from my own personal point of view, I do firmly believe that as younger generations get to, the legal drinking age of 18 and onwards, is a pub really their go-to place? I hold local pubs and clubs, in real high esteem, because I do genuinely believe they can be a vital lifeline to the local community. So not only from being able to enjoy a good beer, but socially and economically as well. It can be really, really important for small villages, small towns, even cities. There'd be multiple people that I would come across that would use pubs and clubs as their social lifeline. Sometimes they would get boiled down in their day-to-day routines, going to work, coming home, not necessarily having that social connection. And if they have a local pub or club available, that's where I do firmly believe the likes of the UNESCO list and heritage sites will really come into its own. Because one of the big things that I did pick up on when I did look into the UNESCO recognition points in detail is the fact that it's trying to take the intangible from the tangible. So yes, you've got a product, you've got a cask ale product, but what UNESCO looks for is the intangible within that product itself. So for me, if the application was to go ahead, which I believe it's due to go ahead in springtime of next year, so spring 2026, whoever does indeed make that application on cask ale's behalf need to be able to extract that intangible element. So yes, you've got the brewing process when it comes to cask ales, but then not only have you got that brewing process, you've also got the cellaring. So the majority of us would know that you could have a fantastic product in a cask ale, yet if it's not kept in the cellar right, then it can spoil. The same goes for different elements or different methods of hand pulling the cask ale. So it's things like that that the application will have to extract and make that tangible product an intangible heritage. So brewing techniques, cellaring, delivery methods, and also looking at the social scene as well. The pubs and clubs, making it that social hub within villages, towns, and cities. So it'll be interesting. It'll be really, really interesting to see how the application goes. I, for one, after speaking to a few people as regards their reservations, I, for one, after kind of delving into it a little bit deeper, I do believe it will be a good thing for cask ale, provided that once the initial application goes in, what we need then is the UK government to provide that backing for cask ale and help the challenges that it currently faces. And some of the huge ones at the moment, the likes of tax levies, and as I alluded to earlier, as regards to potentially the younger generation not maybe going out as much, not using the pubs and clubs as much. It will be a tall order, but I do genuinely hope that the application will go through and cask ale is given that iconic UNESCO heritage status. Anyhow, to the beer tasting. And just before I get to that, actually, please do pop a comment on how you feel the application will go and what your thoughts are, because I'm really interested to hear a variety of different opinions on that particular subject. So yes, back to the ale tasting. This 8.4 Dipa. Very, very interesting beer, and possibly one of the strongest that I've had in a good while. I remember a 10% beer that I tried at the Great British Beer Festival a month ago at the NEC in Birmingham, and that was very, very flavoursome. Really did enjoy it. So it'd be interesting to see what this one's like. So this, if I show you the can, is from North Brewing Company, and you probably can see there it's called Ultra Phase. So it's an 8.4. I've never really, have I ever? No, I don't think I've had a beer from North Brewing Company before. So it'll be interesting to see what I think about the Ultra Phase, and especially starting off with a very, very heavy ABV, with it being an 8.4. So as I normally do, I wanted to look up the brewery itself. And interestingly, on the website, they don't actually have a huge About Us page. So I don't really have a huge amount of information. As I scroll down their website, it just says hop forward beers since 2015. So I'm assuming that's when they were established. Award-winning industry recognition. Enjoyed globally, millions served. And then it just goes into their shop. So yeah, there's not a huge amount of information on the About Us page when it comes to North Brewing Company. It states that it's brewed at Springwell in Leeds. Boslingthorpe, I believe, is what it has here. Can't say I've heard of that particular area within Leeds, but their tasting notes really is quite extravagant in terms of their description points. So it goes on to say we are entering the ultra phase, a sumptuous, smooth base of pale malt, wheat, naked oats, and rolled oats with Citra, Enigma, and Simcoe. Now, I'm a huge Simcoe fan, so I have high hopes for this particular ale. It goes on to say it brings a blast of flavour, a base note of tinned apricot halves, so not any apricot, shall we say, tinned apricot halves, and a zest springboard of mango, white wine gums, interesting, and gooseberry, with crushed pine needles, lemon peel, and passion fruit, finishing with a punchy bite. Soft, fluffy, rounded, and laced with dazzling fresh tropical fruit flavour. So yes, very extravagant in terms of their words that they use when it comes to their description elements. So let's see what the North Brewing Company Ultra Phase 8.4 Dipa is like. So, of course, swilled out the glass. So I haven't got one of their branded ones, so just thought I'd stick with, I think that's a half-pint glass. But let's see. I could actually smell that instantly when I open the can. So let's just take a look. How pours. Oh, that's poured really well. Now there is, I'm sure you can tell, although the reflection might not help, but it's very, very hazy. It smells very fruity, and interestingly, it doesn't smell heavy at all, considering that it's an 8.4. Give it a taste and let's see. Wow, is my initial reaction. That, for an 8.4, is unbelievably fruity. Yeah, so you can definitely taste the gooseberry towards the end. So I was just trying to see if I could get the apricot, not any old apricot, remember, tinned apricot halves, as a base note. Gooseberry, absolutely, I get that. And they are very clever in terms of using the words soft and fluffy, because I would go with that sentiment. It does taste very or the mouthfeel, sorry, is very soft and fluffy. So that does work really well. Yeah, really nice. And very, very tropical. Yeah, it's really fruity. Considering that's an 8.4, that is very Moorish and very, very drinkable. So high scores for the Ultra Phase for me. Once again, thank you for watching, and I shall look forward to seeing you on the next episode.